When Ethan signed up for the Galactic Exchange program, he thought it would just be a fun experiment, a chance to meet someone from another world, share culture, and maybe have some stories to tell. He never expected it would change his life. He never expected her. Her name was Lyra, and she arrived on a quiet autumn evening. The sky outside was painted in orange and gold, and Ethan still remembered how the air smelled of rain when the ship landed. She stepped out of the glowing silver pod wearing a long white suit that shimmered like glass. Her skin had a faint light blue glow, like she carried the stars inside her. Her eyes, silver and wide, reflected everything: his face, the world, even his fear. "Hello, Ethan," she said softly, her voice calm but curious. "I am Lyra of the Andral system. I will be your roommate for the next 9 months." Ethan didn't know what to say. He expected someone strange, maybe cold or robotic. Instead, she looked gentle. She smiled as if she had practiced it by watching humans on a screen. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real. Hi," he said, finally rubbing the back of his neck. "Welcome to Earth, I guess." Her gaze wandered around the apartment. She touched the wooden table like it was a living thing. She leaned toward the lamp and blinked when it turned on. "So warm," she whispered. "You live surrounded by light," he laughed nervously. "Yeah, I guess we do." That was the beginning. 2 strangers under one roof, one human and one alien, learning to share the same small space and the same long nights. The first few days were awkward. Lyra didn't understand human habits. She asked questions about everything. Why do humans drink bitter liquid in the morning? Coffee. Why do they cover their bodies even when it's warm? Why do they look at the sky when they are sad? Ethan tried to answer, but he realized how strange humans could sound when you had to explain their world. Still, he enjoyed her company. Her curiosity made even ordinary things feel new. At night, Lyra often sat by the window and stared at the stars. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, lighting the room with a soft blue hue. Ethan would sometimes watch her from the couch, pretending to read. There was something peaceful about her presence, something that made the silence between them comfortable. One evening, she broke that silence. "Ethan," she said quietly, turning her glowing eyes toward him, "is it true that humans feel love differently from other species?" He blinked. "Love? Yeah, I guess so." "Why do you ask?" "I have studied it," she said seriously. "We Andrillians know love only as a shared frequency, a harmony between minds. But humans, they feel it with their hearts. It changes their behavior, their choices. Some even die for it. I do not understand why." Ethan chuckled softly, unsure how to explain something he barely understood himself. "Yeah, love makes us do stupid things sometimes. But it also makes life worth living." Lyra tilted her head. "Worth living? Even if it hurts?" "Especially then," he said. "Because when you love someone, the pain reminds you that they mattered." For a moment, Lyra didn't speak. Her silver eyes softened, and a faint pulse of blue light flickered across her skin. "Interesting," she whispered. "I would like to learn more about that." Ethan smiled. "Well, you've got 9 months. Plenty of time." Over the next few weeks, their friendship grew naturally. Lyra followed Ethan everywhere, to the market, the park, the rooftop. She was fascinated by laughter, by rain, by the warmth of the sun. She said human emotions were loud, that she could feel them vibrating in the air. Once she saw a couple holding hands in the park. She watched quietly for a long time before asking, "Do humans always touch to feel connected?" Ethan smiled. "Not always, but sometimes it helps." She nodded thoughtfully, looking at her own hands as if she was imagining the feeling. Later that night, when Ethan came home, he found a small note on the kitchen table. Lyra's handwriting was neat and straight. It said, "Observation number 12. Human love seems unpredictable, fragile, but bright. I think it is like fire. It can warm or destroy." He read it twice, feeling an odd tug in his chest. Maybe, he thought, this exchange wasn't just for her to learn. Maybe he was the one who'd learned something too. And so, as the days turned into weeks, Ethan found himself drawn to the quiet alien girl who sat by his window and hummed songs from the stars. He didn't understand her world, and she didn't fully understand his. But somehow, in that small apartment filled with light and questions, 2 hearts from 2 galaxies began to move closer, one beat at a time. The days passed slowly but beautifully. Ethan and Lyra settled into a rhythm that felt surprisingly natural. Every morning, the apartment smelled of coffee and toasted bread, Ethan's small human comforts, while Lyra experimented with tiny holographic lights, studying their reflections on the walls. She never stopped asking questions, and Ethan never stopped trying to answer them, even when he didn't fully understand himself. "Why do humans smile when they are sad?" she asked one afternoon, her silver eyes scanning his face as he stirred the coffee. "Sometimes," Ethan said, pausing. "Smiles are a way to hide pain, or maybe to show hope, or just to make someone else feel better." Lyra tilted her head, glowing faintly in the sunlight. "Fascinating. The same sound as a smile can mean so many different things. In Andril, our expressions are direct. There is no hiding, no guessing. Emotions are pure, measurable, constant. I like your complexity," Ethan laughed softly. "Complexity can be messy too. But yeah, there's beauty in it." She reached for a small notebook she carried everywhere, writing rapidly in her neat script. Then she looked up, a soft hum vibrating from her chest. "So humans feel love with their hearts, but also their minds and even their actions. That is different. I need to understand it fully." And so their lessons began. Ethan showed her the little things. How rain could make someone feel both happy and lonely. How music could bring tears without any words. How a hug could fix something no medicine could. Lyra learned quickly, but always with a scientist's curiosity. She would measure the warmth in the room, the micro-tremors of his voice, the subtle rhythms of laughter. One evening, after a long walk through the city, they returned to the apartment exhausted. Ethan flopped on the couch and Lyra sat beside him, legs tucked under her. Her hand brushed against his as she reached for the window, tracing the pattern of lights across the streets below. "Humans love unpredictably," she said, her voice low. "You do not calculate, you do not measure. You feel, you leap." Ethan turned to look at her. "Leap?" she smiled faintly. "Yes, you risk hurt, sadness, rejection. And yet you still leap. That is remarkable." He felt a strange warmth in his chest. "It's worth it," he said, "even if it hurts sometimes." For a long time they sat in silence, listening to the hum of the city below. Ethan could feel her presence in a new way, like an invisible current moving through the room, connecting them. She wasn't just observing anymore. She was experiencing with him. The more she learned, the more she changed. Her blue glow pulsed gently when she laughed. Her silver eyes shimmered with understanding when he told stories of heartbreak and joy. Ethan noticed that he was learning too, learning patience, learning curiosity, learning to see himself through her eyes. One night, as rain drummed softly against the window, Lyra asked, "Ethan, have you ever felt love so deeply that it makes your chest ache?" Ethan thought about it. He thought about moments he had never shared with anyone, feelings he had kept hidden. "Yes," he said finally. "It's like part of you is alive in someone else. You can't control it. You just feel it, and it scares you because it's so powerful." Lyra hummed softly, a vibration that seemed to fill the room with warmth. "Then I think I am beginning to understand." She looked at him with an intensity that made his stomach tighten, not just as data, as something real. Ethan swallowed, suddenly aware of the subtle shifts between them. The air felt heavier, charged with unspoken questions. He realized that learning about human love wasn't just teaching her. It was changing both of them. Days turned into weeks, and their bond grew in ways neither expected. They laughed, argued playfully, shared food, and talked for hours about stars, planets, and human emotions. Ethan began to notice the soft tremor in her hands when she was excited, the faint warmth of her presence when she sat close, the way her silver eyes searched his face as if she was reading not just his words but his very heart. One evening, Lyra placed her hand gently over his. "Humans are extraordinary," she said. "Every feeling, every choice, it is beautiful, fragile, and worth everything." Ethan looked down at her hand, then into her glowing eyes. He didn't know if she realized it, but in teaching her, she had taught him too, that love was not only an emotion but a connection, a bridge between hearts and even between worlds. And somewhere deep inside, he began to feel something he hadn't expected, a quiet, tender anticipation for every moment with her, a hope that this connection could last far longer than the exchange program itself. It started on a quiet morning. Ethan was making his usual breakfast when Lyra appeared in the kitchen, her silver eyes unusually serious. The usual glow of curiosity in her gaze was replaced with something heavier, more deliberate. She held a small device, humming faintly, and her glowing fingers traced patterns in the air. "I have received instructions from my people," she said softly. "Test. It is called the love test. I must observe and measure love in humans to complete my research." Ethan froze. He nearly dropped the frying pan. "A test on me?" "Yes," she said, looking down at her hands. "It is required. They cannot understand love directly. It must be simulated, observed, measured." Ethan felt a strange chill run down his spine. Simulated or real? Lyra hesitated, blinking slowly. "The experiment is not meant to create true emotion, but I do not know if I can keep it separate. You are human. I trust you." He swallowed hard. His heart thumped in a way that made even the frying pan rattle on the stove. He wanted to say no, to refuse, but the soft glow of her skin, the quiet trust in her eyes, made his chest ache in a strange, unfamiliar way. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll help you, but only if we promise something." She tilted her head. "What promise?" "That we're honest with each other. No pretending. No hiding." Lyra's fingers glowed faintly, a shimmer of blue pulsing softly. "I promise," she whispered. The first steps of the test were simple. Lyra would project simulated affection through micro-vibrations, a technique her species used to study emotional resonance. She would laugh softly when he laughed, mirror his gestures, and make subtle touches that humans might call intimate. Ethan felt it immediately. A warmth that spread like sunlight through his chest, a pull he couldn't resist. Every glance from her, every soft hum seemed to echo inside him. The room, once ordinary, became charged with unspoken tension. "This is strange," Ethan said one evening, sitting beside her on the couch. "It's supposed to be a test, right? But I feel it. I feel you." Lyra's silver eyes shimmered, and the glow along her skin intensified. "That is unexpected," she admitted. "The test is designed to measure emotions, but I am responding. My body, my mind, they are affected. I did not anticipate this." He reached out, lightly brushing her hand. The contact made both of them pause, suspended in the quiet hum of the apartment. Ethan felt dizzy with the intensity of it, a strange new emotion that scared and thrilled him at once. "Lyra," he whispered, "are you feeling real things, or just the simulation?" She looked at him, her chest vibrating softly. "I do not know," she confessed. "I am supposed to measure. I am supposed to observe, and yet, when you smile at me, I feel something that cannot be measured. It is warmth, it is longing, it is joy, and perhaps it is love." Ethan's stomach flipped. The words spoken aloud hung between them like a fragile crystal. He realized that this test, meant to be scientific, detached, had already crossed the line. It was no longer just data. Their hearts had begun to speak. Over the next few days, the experiment deepened. Lyra would observe him as he prepared meals, watched movies, even as he laughed at his own clumsy mistakes. She would hum softly when he wasn't looking, and sometimes she would lean just a little too close. Each time, Ethan's pulse raced. Each time he felt the strange thrill of being seen, truly seen, by someone so unlike himself yet so attuned to his every emotion. And yet, the test carried tension. Lyra would sometimes pull back, recording notes with a trembling hand, whispering numbers and frequencies, trying to remind herself that it was science. But Ethan noticed the way her gaze lingered, the way her body reacted to his laughter, to his voice. She wasn't just observing anymore. She was participating. One night, as rain streaked the windows and the city hummed below, Ethan turned to her, heart hammering. "Lyra, this isn't just a test for you, is it?" Her breath caught, and the faint blue light along her arms pulsed rapidly. I do not know anymore," she admitted, voice trembling. "Perhaps I am failing the test. Perhaps I am already involved." Ethan reached for her hand, and she did not pull away. The hum in the air between them grew louder, the apartment brighter, as if the world itself had noticed. In that quiet, charged moment, they both understood something undeniable. The experiment had ceased to be science. It had become something far greater, far more human. Love. The days grew longer, and the apartment seemed to pulse with unspoken energy. Lyra's experiment continued, but the lines between observation and feeling blurred more each day. Ethan noticed the smallest things, the way her silver eyes followed him across the room, The way her glowing fingers trembled slightly when she reached for a cup, even the soft hum that filled the air whenever he laughed. It was during breakfast one morning when it became clear that the test was no longer just data. Lyra handed him a cup of steaming coffee, her touch lingering on his hand a second longer than necessary. "You are warm," she said softly, almost to herself. "Humans radiate. Something different than I expected." Ethan smiled, though his chest felt tight. "I guess you could say that. Coffee helps too." She tilted her head, glowing faintly, and studied him as if she could see his heart beating. "It is not just warmth. It is connection, the frequency between us. It is strong." He swallowed hard, realizing that she was no longer treating this as a test. She was feeling. He could see it in her eyes, in the soft pulsing of her light. Something powerful had awakened inside her. Something she had never expected, and perhaps he had never expected either. The experiment became more intricate. Lyra would mirror his emotions, projecting simulated affection that felt startlingly real. She laughed when he told stories, her voice like a soft melody. She leaned closer when he grew sad, sensing the tension in his shoulders and the quiet ache in his chest. Ethan felt everything intensely. Every touch, every glance, every hum of her presence sent warmth flooding through him. He realized with a start that he wasn't just participating in the experiment, he was living it. He was experiencing love, the kind he had read about in stories but never truly known. One rainy evening, as the soft patter of water filled the room, Ethan and Lyra sat on the couch wrapped in a shared blanket. She traced patterns on his arm with her glowing fingertips, her eyes fixed on his face. "Do humans always feel so deeply?" she asked, voice trembling slightly. "Even for small moments?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Sometimes. But the moments that matter, they stay with you. They change you. They make you more alive." Lyra's chest vibrated softly, a low hum that made his skin tingle. "I think I am beginning to understand. These feelings, they cannot be measured by instruments. They are alive. They are raw. They are important." Ethan reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. Her light pulsed gently, as if responding to his heartbeat. "And they are worth it," he said. "Even when it hurts." Her eyes shimmered, silver and bright, reflecting the storm outside the window. "Then perhaps I am learning the most important lesson not as a scientist, but as someone who feels." The days of the experiment became a dance of small intimacies. She would hum softly when he was near, and he would feel a pull in his chest, a yearning that he didn't try to name. She laughed at his jokes, even the terrible ones, and he realized that her laughter had become a kind of music in his life. One afternoon, Ethan came home to find her sitting on the floor, her notebook open, scribbling notes in her neat alien script. She looked up and smiled softly. "Ethan," she said, "your emotions, they resonate with me in ways I cannot control. I was supposed to observe, to measure, to simulate, but I cannot. My responses are real." He knelt beside her, feeling the warmth of her presence like sunlight spilling across his skin. "Then we are past the test," he said quietly. "This isn't just data anymore, it's us." Her light pulsed brighter, and she reached for his hand. "Yes," she whispered. "I care for you. More than I should. More than any experiment allows." Ethan felt his heart leap, a rush of joy and fear intertwining. "I care for you too," he admitted. "More than I can explain. And I don't want to pretend this is anything else." For a moment, they sat together in silence, the hum of her presence filling the apartment, the rain outside creating a soft rhythm that seemed to sync with their hearts. In that quiet, charged space, both understood something undeniable. The experiment had ceased to be science. It had become something far greater, a connection between two beings from different worlds, learning to understand each other in the deepest, most human way possible. The morning was quiet, almost too quiet. Ethan was making tea when the apartment door vibrated softly. Lyra, who had been reading on the couch, looked up immediately, her glowing silver eyes narrowing slightly. There was a tension in the air, a hum that felt different from the gentle one that always surrounded her. A small, sleek ship hovered outside the window, its surface reflecting the city lights. Ethan's heart skipped. He had never seen Android technology up close, but he recognized it immediately. This was not a visit. This was an inspection. "They're here," Lyra whispered, rising to her feet. Her fingers glowed faintly, a soft tremor running along her arms. "The Andril research team, They will observe the test results directly. Ethan froze. Observe? Or interfere? She shook her head slowly. They will do more than observe if they sense contamination. Her voice was quiet, almost fearful. I have already crossed the line. Ethan's chest tightened. He realized what she meant. The bond they had formed during the test, the laughter, the touches, the quiet hum between them, was real. It was no longer data. It was connection, fragile and intense, and now it was in danger. The ship's door opened and two figures stepped inside. They were tall, precise, and completely alien, their silver skin reflecting the light like liquid metal. They ignored Ethan at first, turning their attention immediately to Lyra. Status report, one of them commanded in a voice that hummed with authority. Emotionally contaminated. Human influence detected. Must reset subject immediately. Lyra's light dimmed slightly. She looked at Ethan, her silver eyes wide with panic and something else, fear. They want me to erase it, she whispered. To reset everything. Every feeling. Every memory of you. I cannot let them. Ethan stepped forward, his voice firm. Then don't, you don't have to. You can choose. Her fingers trembled as she reached for his hand. I am not supposed to choose, she admitted. I am a subject, a researcher, a participant. My duty, my people. They expect compliance. But you're not a subject anymore, Ethan said, stepping closer. You're you, and I'm not going to let them take this away from either of us. The Andral officers watched silently, their glowing eyes scanning Lyra. She held Ethan's hand tightly, her chest vibrating with a hum that matched the tension in the room. One of them stepped forward. Your attachment compromises the experiment. It is not allowed. Compliance is mandatory. I refuse, Lyra said, her voice trembling but growing stronger. I will not erase this. Not him, not the connection. I choose. Ethan felt his chest swell with emotion. He reached for her other hand. You're allowed to choose. This isn't a test anymore. This is real. The Andral officers paused. They studied her carefully, their cold expressions unreadable. Then, after what felt like an eternity, they withdrew silently. The ship hummed as it lifted off, leaving the apartment quiet once more. Lyra sank onto the couch, her hand still entwined with his. Her light glowed softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. They wanted to erase you from me, she whispered, tears shimmering along her cheekbones. Every laugh, every word. Gone. I almost let them. Ethan held her gently. You didn't, you chose. That's all that matters. Her silver eyes searched his face, filled with vulnerability and wonder. Humans feel so deeply, she murmured. I thought I could learn it. I thought I could study it. But I did not expect to fall into it. You did, Ethan said softly. And it's okay. I feel it too. She leaned against him, her hum mingling with the soft rhythm of his heartbeat. The room felt alive, as if the universe itself was exhaling a quiet sigh of relief. They had survived the interference, but more importantly, they had survived themselves, their fear, their doubts, and the fragile possibility of loving across worlds. For a long time, they sat together, holding hands, breathing in each other's presence. Ethan realized, as he felt the gentle warmth radiating from her, that love was not a calculation, not a formula, and not a test. It was a choice, one they had both made against odds and expectations, and it was the most human thing they had ever done. And in that moment, two beings from entirely different worlds understood something vital. That love, in its purest form, was worth fighting for. The morning sunlight felt cruelly bright. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space where Lyra's glow had been the night before. The apartment felt hollow, too quiet, and every object seemed to whisper her absence. He could still feel the faint hum of her presence lingering in the air, like a ghost of warmth. Lyra had been taken back by the Andral research team. Despite her choice the day before, the rules of her world were unyielding. The ship's protocols required her return. She had left with a gentle smile, one that tried to hide the fear and sadness she didn't want Ethan to see. But he had felt the truth in her trembling fingers, the weight of unspoken words, and the glow that flickered once desperately. Before fading, Ethan wandered through the apartment, touching the places she had touched. The windowsill where she traced constellations in soft light. The couch where she had sat humming, her notebook still open on the table. Every note she had written, Every observation about human emotion was a reminder of what they had shared. He picked up the notebook. Lyra's neat alien script filled the pages, but one line stood out, underlined twice. Love is not data. It is the silence between two heartbeats that cannot be measured. Ethan read it again, feeling a sting in his chest. She had tried to understand humanity scientifically, and yet she had discovered something far more powerful, something that could not be contained, calculated, or erased. Days turned into nights, and nights into restless dreams. Ethan imagined her glowing softly in the darkness, her silver eyes searching for him. He remembered the way her fingers had fit into his, the hum of her chest when they laughed together, the warmth she brought to every corner of the apartment. It was unbearable to realize that someone from another world could leave such a mark on him. On the third night, he spoke aloud, though he knew she could not hear him. "Lyra, you're not supposed to be gone. You're supposed to be here." His voice cracked. I can't just forget you." Somewhere in the vastness of the city, or perhaps the galaxy, Lyra felt something similar. The Andril ship carried her away, but she could not erase the resonance of his heart, the warmth of his laughter, the intensity of the moments they had shared. She had been instructed to reset her emotional memory, to erase the human influence, but she tried and failed. Each time Ethan's presence returned like a beacon she could not ignore. She whispered to herself, her voice trembling, "Humans feel too deeply. Now I understand why it breaks them." For Ethan, life became a series of quiet echoes. He went through the motions, work, meals, small routines, but every object, every sound reminded him of her. He could almost hear the soft hum she had left behind, almost see the faint glow that once lit their evenings. He visited the places they had gone together, the park, the rooftop, the small cafes where they had shared conversations and laughter. Everywhere he looked, he found traces of her, and every time his chest ached with the weight of her absence. But in the ache, there was also hope. Hope that what they had experienced was not lost. Hope that their connection had survived the distance between worlds. Hope that love, however fragile, could endure beyond the rules and constraints of her society. One evening, he returned home to the apartment, exhausted, and collapsed on the couch. The soft hum of the city outside seemed almost like a lullaby. He closed his eyes and whispered into the silence, "I'll wait, Lyra. No matter how far you are, no matter how long it takes, I'll wait." Somewhere across the stars, Lyra echoed the sentiment in her own way. The Andril officers could not understand it, could not measure it, but she carried it in her chest, the memory of a human, his warmth, and the truth they had discovered together. And in that quiet, aching distance, both of them understood something profound. Love was not bound by planets, by rules, or even by logic. It was a force that transcended everything, and even separation could not diminish it. For Ethan and Lyra, the test had ended, but the real journey was only beginning. They had discovered something neither had expected, that love, once awakened, was impossible to forget. It had been months since Lyra had been taken away. The apartment had grown quiet in a way that felt almost permanent. Ethan went about his days with a hollow rhythm, working, eating, walking through the city streets. But every shadow, every sound, reminded him of her. He could still feel the faint pulse of her presence in the corners of the rooms, the soft hum that lingered long after she had gone. He often found himself staring at the night sky, searching for some trace of her glow among the stars. Sometimes he imagined her sitting on the rooftop beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the city lights, her hand resting gently on his. He whispered her name into the wind, hoping that somewhere across the vast distances she could hear him. Then, one quiet evening, everything changed. Ethan was sitting by the window, sipping tea and staring at the stars, when the lights in the apartment flickered softly. At first he thought it was just a power surge, but then he heard it, a soft, familiar hum, delicate yet undeniable. His heart jumped. It was hers. He ran to the doorway and froze. There, bathed in a gentle glow, stood Lyra. Her silver eyes shone brighter than ever, and the soft blue of her skin pulsed like the beat of a living heart. She looked at him, and for a moment neither spoke. The hum of the room matched the rhythm of their hearts, slow and steady, intertwined. "They couldn't erase you," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Every time they tried, every time they attempted to reset me, your presence returned. I could not forget you." I could not leave you behind. Ethan closed the distance between them, his chest aching with relief and longing. Then you came back, he said softly. You chose to come back. Lyra nodded, taking his hands in hers. The warmth of her touch filled him completely, spreading through every part of him. I chose us, she said. No more tests. No more observers. No more experiments. I choose this, choosing you and choosing love. Ethan felt tears prick his eyes. He pulled her into his arms, holding her close as if letting go for even a second might make her disappear. The apartment filled with a soft, radiant light, the glow of Lyra's skin mingling with the city's twilight. For the first time in months, he felt whole. They sat together on the couch, hands entwined, foreheads touching, sharing a silence that spoke more than words ever could. The distance, the tests, the rules of a distant world, none of it mattered anymore. They had chosen each other, and that choice was stronger than any force in the universe. I never imagined that love could feel like this, Ethan whispered. Like it's both fragile and unbreakable at the same time. Lyra smiled softly, her silver eyes shimmering with emotion. Humans are extraordinary, she said. I thought I was here to study your species. But in truth, I learned more about myself. About feelings I could not measure. About choices I could not calculate. About love? Ethan laughed quietly, a sound filled with relief and joy. I guess you passed the test, he teased gently. In the end, the experiment didn't matter. We did. She leaned her head against his shoulder, humming softly. The soft vibrations filled the room, wrapping around them like a blanket. Yes, she said, we did, and it is more beautiful than any data could ever show. Outside, the city continued to glow, unaware of the quiet miracle taking place in a small apartment on its edge. Two beings from entirely different worlds, once separated by rules, distance, and the strict logic of science, had found something that transcended everything. A connection that could not be erased, measured or contained. Ethan held her close, feeling the warmth of her chest against his, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat aligning with his own. I don't care about galaxies or programs or species, he whispered. All I care about is you. Lyra looked up, her silver eyes bright with tears and light. And I care about you, she said, her hum resonating like a song between them. Across all the stars, across all the rules, I will always find you. And in that quiet apartment, with the glow of alien light mixing with human warmth, they discovered something eternal. That love, once chosen freely, could survive any distance, any obstacle, any test. Together, hand in hand, heart to heart, they had proven something far greater than science, far greater than duty. They had proven that the human heart, full of courage, depth, and emotion, could touch even the stars. And for Ethan and Lyra, that was enough.